Hello there, good morning. It's Monday morning, which means it's time for me to build another map card. So here I am, I've loaded up GIMP, I've got my map tiles, whoops, over there on the side. Oops, no, I don't want them to do that. Oop. Trying to get everything arranged. There we go. So, got my map tiles, got my blank canvas, I've got everything set up. So, let us begin. I'm using the rubble rock walls. No, I'm not. Which walls am I using? I can't remember. Plaster walls, rubble rock walls, sandstone floor, stone wall overlays. Is that the one? That's the one. That's what I'm using. Okie dokie. So what are we going to do? So I'm building. I'm doing sort of underground catacombs. So let's just zoom in a bit. I'm going to start by building in now. I'll just check that I've got this set up right. I want to take that on there, and this needs to go into here. Okay, so I'm in my proper folder. Now the first thing I've got to remember is I have a 2x2 hallway coming through here and through here. Now the interesting thing I'm going to do with this map is this is going to be one of the outside wall, so it's not going to have a doorway on one of the sides because obviously it's going to be closed off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly put in the edges of the map card. So let's just say this one's closed off on this side and we only have this and this open. So let's quickly just put in our entrances and exits. So how's your Monday morning panning out? We had a bit of rain during the night, so the whole place is wet. But it's actually kind of warm today for the month. We've had it's been very windy here in Australia, in Queensland. So hopefully your part of the world, because I know the other hemispheres from us opposite. So you're going through your summer while we're going through our winter. So I'm going to have an exit over here. So that's going to go to another map tile on the side. Same as over this side. Because the thing that I'm doing with each of these map cards, because the whole idea of this entire set is it's a bunch of 10 by 10 map cards that you can then just, if you're building a dungeon in Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or Foundry, you can just quickly throw down a couple of these maps and hey presto, it's a instant dungeon. That's the idea. So let us, but you need to have entrances and exits to get the map cards to work together. So for example, if you put this one down, because there's an exit here, you can put another one here because its exit will match up. Pardon me. At least that's the idea in theory. Okay, so this is where people will sort of venture in. So I'll just go and put some cornerstones. Here we are. Okay, so need this one over there. And where is it? This one here. Down here. And so, yeah, I use map tiles to build all of these adventure maps. You can pick up my map tiles at Drive-Thru RPG. You can also pick them up at a number of other places. Like, if you just go to my website, have a look, you'll find a good listing of where you can grab my bits and pieces. Now I'm doing my map building in GIMP. Now GIMP is a free program. It's kind of like a free version of Photoshop. I actually do the bulk of my adventure map building in Photoshop, but I use, when I'm building with map tiles, I use GIMP to do my basic layout, which is probably 90% of my map building. Is basically doing this. You're putting down the tiles, moving them into place. Now the reason I use GIMP is because, see these little crosses, this grid? I have snap to grid enabled, which means each of these tiles that I move around, they'll really easily, see how I can just move it really quick and it snaps into place? Yeah, it's great to do that. I find GIMP's grid snap just a bit nicer than Photoshop. Although I personally prefer to do all my graphics in Photoshop. It's just personal preference. Although I know a lot of people who do their graphic design work, their artwork, in Photoshop, or they use another program like Clip Studio. I probably actually should do a map build in Clip Studio so that people can see the difference. Because I have that too. I like to use Clip Studio as a drawing program. Like, each program's really good at doing... Like, Clip Studio was built to be a drawing program. It's got really good pencil engines and stuff like that. Photoshop, it was built to be a... originally, it was built by a bunch of guys at Industrial Light and Magic to edit film, like movie stuff. And it sort of, it grew from that. Because, and this is back in the days before, before Adobe existed, before Photoshop existed. So these guys had this, they needed a program to edit graphics in the early days of computer graphics. So they made the very, very, very first version of Photoshop. And, it just spiraled from there. It was such a successful graphics design program. Which has then since, spawned a lot of other graphics design programs which have tried to copy it. So I do a lot of my building in Photoshop. It's just what I'm used to. Yum yum. But GIMP is a fantastic graphics design program. I can't recommend it enough. It's really good. Even though I don't use, I pretty much use it for this and this alone. I will, happily say, if you want to design adventure maps, grab this program. It is good. But anyway, so what I'm thinking I might do here is I'm trying to build map cards that are they're just going to be a maze. They're just going to be, people are going to sort of explore around and find their way through the dungeon to get to rooms where our game masters could hide treasure, monsters, whatever. So this map, or this card, is basically going to be like a little maze. And probably just a single room in the middle. So the characters will have to work to get to the inner room, the inner chamber, through the maze to find the treasure. At least, you know, that's the idea in theory. And so over this live stream, I'll make 2 maps. I'll make this one, and I'll make another one after this one. Now, one, if you're signed up to my Patreon, if you're part of the Studio Wildfur community on Patreon, which thank you very much. Your support is very, very helpful. I cannot thank you enough. If you're not signed up to the Studio Wildfur community on Patreon, what are you doing with your lives? You should, go join. You should join up. Support me. Don't make me rattle my poverty tin and go, please, I need your help. Just go and join up. You will get one of your quirks or rewards is that you'll actually get each of these maps. You will get not just a image of map, which is what you will get. I usually upload a copy of each of these maps this afternoon. But if you're a Patreon subscriber, you will get the map, but you'll get my working file, which means you will be able to edit this map yourself. See this, all this over here, all the layers and everything, you'll get that. You'll get all that. So you could come along and you could grab this map and you go, yeah, it's cool, but I want to change it. I want to knock out this wall and put a corridor through there and another room here. So you could do that. You could totally change it because you will have the design construction file in GIMP. So you could load up GIMP. I've got a tutorial that can tell you how to use GIMP. It's really, really easy. If you're doing what I'm doing right now, like this, it's super, super simple. You'll be able to pick it up in an afternoon. I've got a tutorial that'll show you how to do it. It's great. And because you're using map tiles, the bulk of the artwork's done for you. There's not a hell of a lot that you need to do other than, scroll through all the assets, pick the one you like this one, and go, yep, I'm going to put it right there. That's pretty much all you need to do. But what else am I doing at the moment? Because I do more than just make map tiles and adventure maps. I'm making a adventure campaign world at the moment called The Cube. Now, it's a really weird name, but it is for a reason. The Cube is a magical puzzle world. It was built hundreds of years ago by a collection of really powerful beings. So it was like wizards, witches, there were some gods, there was some, just elemental beings. It was everything. Had a hand in the creation of the cube. Now, should I do that? I'll do that. Okay. So the cube it's a world, but it's a manufactured world, and it's manufactured in the form of a cube. So it's a big, it's a cube. But the cube's surface is entirely etched with a gigantic labyrinth. So if you were on the surface of the cube, the walls of the labyrinth are 20 miles high. If you're close up, like if you're from a distance looking at it, the walls look smooth. But if you're far away, if you're close up, you can actually see, the rock face is jagged and there's bits fallen off and whatnot. It's sort of like if you ever look at things through a electron microscope, you'll see that, from a distance, what we think is smooth is actually quite rough. It's like looking at a razor blade. If you look at a razor blade, it looks highly smooth, very polished, very sharp. But if you then use an electron microscope and you zoom in and you look at it, you look at that very fine detail, you'll see that it's really jagged. It's got crevices and cracks and bits sticking out, but you don't see it because you're looking. We are looking at it at a large overview, so we normally don't see that. But when you zoom right in, you see that damage. You see how cracked that surface is, and that's exactly the idea with the cube. From a distance, if you're looking at the cube, it looks smooth. It looks looks like it's a stone with a carving on it. But if you're down there, you're one of the people who are trapped in the world of the cube. It's jagged. It's mountain cliffs the size of continents, and it's highly unnatural. And the unfortunate thing is that you're trapped on the world of the cube. So that's a little room that I've just built there, and what are we going to do? So we might have this sort of come down here and have some other rooms, which means I'm going to need to change. I'm going to need to change that. So I'll just get rid of that. In GIMP, so I'm using the move brush at the moment. In GIMP, there's this little panel here, it's basically whatever tool you've got, it will have the modes or the specific features of that tool will appear in this panel. Now, one of the features of the move tool is you can pick a layer or guide, or you can have it move selection layer. So move selection layer basically means it will only move the layer, this layer, it'll only move that layer when I go to move stuff around. So no matter where I click in the screen or click in the panel, it'll move that piece around. And let's go snap back there. But this can be a helpful piece, but sometimes it can be a pain in the bum. If you go to this mode, which is pick a layer or guide, it means every time you click on the screen, whatever's under your mouse at that time, you'll pick up and you will move. Now this can be good. This can be good when you need to, you don't want to go hunting through all these layers to try and find that one particular piece. Like, I don't know which layer this is, so you can use the pick tool and just grab it, whoop, like that. But here's the downside. It picks up whatever's under the mouse, so mouse pointer. So sometimes you might misclick, like I want to grab that, but I might click here. And if I click here, oh, it's grabbing the background. I didn't mean to do that. That's the downside to that tool. So it is it's a really good mode for using this tool, but I find the tendency to misclick and grab something you didn't mean to move is just too high. Okay, so we'll have another little room. What are we going to do? Actually, I'll grab this. Actually, no. I'll grab this four-way intersection. I like that. So we'll have passageway there, and continue down here. Okay, so I'm going to grab. We've got some passageway tiles. Here we go. So I made these passageway tiles just to enable the quick building of passageway. So you just grab it, plonk down, some passageways. Same over this side. So rather than having to grab multiple, like, put down that one, that one, and that one, you just grab these passageway tiles and just plonk, 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 plonk. Done. Okay, back up here. So we'll put a piece here and have a little room here. There we go. And so this means we need a bit of a, there we go. So we'll need to cap that. So go to our cornerstones. Here we go. But anyway, getting back to my story. So yeah, the world of the cube, it's coming along quite well. I'm very close to finishing the second episode or second adventure module. Hoping, cross fingers, to get it wrapped up tomorrow, and I'll be able to put out the Fantasy Grounds adventure module. I've got a little bit of tweaking and fine tuning to do, but I think it's pretty close to being done, which will be good. I'll be able to get that done once because basically I do. I sort of build each adventure module. I build in Fantasy Grounds first. Like, I write the whole thing, do all the graphics, and then I build it in Fantasy Grounds, because sometimes as you build it in Fantasy Grounds, you sort of go, oh, I need a bit of artwork to display that, or I need a bit of artwork that's gonna do this thing. So it's good to build it in Fantasy Grounds, and then once I've built it in Fantasy Grounds and I've tested it and it looks good. Oh, pardon me. I then build it in Foundry and Roll20 and publish it that way, because I've recently become a Roll20 content creator. How cool is that? So I'll be able to put out content for Roll20, and I'll also be in the Foundry. Like I'm I have access to the Foundry virtual tabletop key system, so I can create keys to my adventure modules and other packs, like map tile packs and stuff, and release those via drive-through. So be able to pick them up via drive-through RPG and get them that way. But one thing I'm also looking at doing, which I'm planning on spending next month doing, is setting up access to the Foundry, the actual Foundry store. There we go. There's a room there. So yeah, it'll be really cool. I'll be able to get into the Foundry shop, where you'll be able to get my goodies. There we go. So we'll have, and it'll be all accessible via Foundry. Same thing as Roll20. I'm in the Roll20 store now, but I need to take some time to actually port material from Fantasy Grounds, where I've got everything in Fantasy Grounds. I've been making material for Fantasy Grounds for goodness knows how many years. But I now need to port that material over to the other two platforms. I've known of Roll20 since Roll20 came into existence, but I always found the Roll20 platform was a little lacking. But now with the Jumpstart platform that they're bringing in, it's getting a bit better. It's getting a lot better. Out of the top 3 platforms that I support, I personally find Foundry is leading the way. The other two, they're good, but I just think Foundry's doing it better. You know, that's no criticism of Fantasy Grounds and Roll20. They are doing their thing very well. But just my personal preference and playstyle, I'm just finding I like Foundry a little better. It's all preference. I've talked to people that, you know, Fantasy Grounds is the bee's knees. They'll never change over to another platform. It's just fantastic. Does everything they want, and you know that's totally cool. And for many years, I was the exact same way. But I don't know, just Fantasy Grounds. They've gone. Well, they sort of always did, but they've gone more so in the last few years. That I think, and this is my personal opinion here, I'm not associated with Fantasy Grounds. I'm not associated, like technically, I'm not associated with any of these platforms. I'm just a content provider who makes material for them. And I just sell on their platforms. But I don't know. Fantasy Grounds, I think you could be doing just a smidgen better. But that, again, that's my opinion. But other than that, it's fantastic. Like, if you could, if you wanted to, build this map in Fantasy Grounds. That's how cool Fantasy Grounds is. You could technically do it in Foundry, but the one difference is, compared to Fantasy Grounds, is that Foundry doesn't have a way, once you've built the map, Foundry doesn't have a way to export it out, well, unless they've changed it since I last built a map in Fantasy Grounds, in Foundry. They don't have a way to export a map, so you can just use it as a flattened graphic. Whereas Fantasy Grounds does. And I think that's one of the powers of making material in Fantasy Grounds, is you could use these map tiles, make your map, export it as a flattened JPEG, re-import it, and then put all of your dynamic lighting material in. Because the reason why you want to do that is that, see all these layers here, like you look at all the layers that I've created, you don't want to have all that drag on your computer system while you're running a game. Because you've got to think, that's all going to be transferred to your players, the computer system's got to keep track of it. You only need all that information when you're actually building your adventure map. Once the adventure map is built, you can pretty much flatten the artwork, flatten this entire picture, and just use the flattened picture, and then just put your dynamic lighting data over the top of it, which is what I do. And I recommend that you do that as well. Because then you don't have a big load draining, a big drain on your computer system when you're running your adventure. Because that would just create network lag, and that's just, you don't want to do that. It won't be a fun game for your players. Put that down there. And it won't be fun for you. So yeah, you flatten it, then use the flattened image in your game, and everything will run smooth. But anyway, aside from all that nonsense, Now, should I probably could do this again to make like another, like that. Yeah, like another intersection room here. Yeah, I like the idea of that. It's looking pretty cool. But anyway, back to the world of the cube. So the first adventure I released, which has been out for a couple of months now, it's called Kidnapped. The players are basically kidnapped in their sleep. They're having a nice little snooze, and the magic of the cube teleports them into a dungeon. And they wake up in the dungeon, and they have adventures because they're now trapped in the world of the cube. And obviously they want to get home. It's like, this is not home. We want to go home. So the whole idea of the cube is that everybody's trying to find. Everybody's on what is called the Great Quest. And the Great Quest is a quest to explore all the dungeons that have been left behind, and try and find the machine or the device or whatever it was that teleported you onto the world of the cube in the first place. Because once you find the machine, you can hopefully get it to let you go home. Go back to your original plane of origin. At least that's the idea. So the world of the cube is populated by different peoples, and most of them are peoples who have ended up on the world of the cube because the magic of the cube has absconded them from wherever they originally were. So put little alcoves in there. So we'll have this come down here. So we'll need that. So yeah, so everybody's on the Great Quest trying to find a way to get back home, because the magic of the cube has stolen people. Now, should I just make this come through here? I reckon I will. So let us go to here, like that. So the cube has kidnapped everyone. So the majority of people who live on the world of the cube now have been kidnapped by the cube, by the powers of the cube, and marooned on the world of the cube. So that's how the majority of people have ended up there. But there are beings and races who are on the world of the cube because, they were. That's where they. That's where they've been. Technically, no one's native to the world of the cube. It's a manufactured world in a pocket dimension. Well, sorry, a quasi pocket dimension. The cube does exist in the real world, but everybody who's on the cube is sort of in a parallel dimension, where they live on the tiny little cube, but they've been made teeny tiny people themselves. Because the whole idea of the cube is that it's a fabrication that is being used by very powerful wizards to basically explore the ins and outs. Oh no, I don't want to use that. Of magical energies, and they've been using it to basically. It's sort of like, in our world, when scientists conduct magical research, there's a lot of ethics that goes into that research. You know, they can't, you know, don't do things that are unethical, like, you know, cruelty to animals, that sort of thing. The world of the cube was created by a bunch of beings that don't give a shit about ethics. They wanted a world where they can study the effects of magic without people peering over their shoulder and going, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not very nice." So, yeah. The people who created the world of the cube are themselves not very nice. Okay, so I have just done all the walls. So that's the walls of my map card. Let's just... So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in. So let's go to 100%. Whoop, there we go. And we scroll over here. So let's start down here. So we're going to go and put in... Oop, I just discovered one thing. I've put all of the walls in the floor folder. So let's grab those. Put them in the walls folder. Oop. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, so let's lock down the walls folder so I can't move them. Okay, now we go to the floor. So we're going to put in the floor. Okay. Now one of the cool things is that we have pit traps. Yay! So let's put a pit trap right here. So you'd have to jump over this pit trap to get to whatever's here. And then I'm going to use... There we go. So there could be something here, pit trap the players have to get across, and, you know, some... Oops. Oh, no. So that's a 2x2, so I use that to quickly fill in areas. Thought I was grabbing a 1x1. So there's that room sort of filled in. So what I'll do is I'll actually quickly fill in around the outer wall. So this is just plonking down tiles to do the floor that's going into this entire area. And it pretty much finishes the map. But yeah, so the world of the cube was not created by benevolent beings. It was created by a bunch of, what would be a polite way of saying it, not very nice scientists, magical scientists. You know, they're sort of like, you know, they want to conduct experiments, any experiments, and, you know, learn all that they can, create magic spells, create enchantments, learn how the fabric of the multiverse works. You know, think Spelljammer on steroids. You know, learn how all this works, but without the burden of people looking over their shoulders and saying, "Hey, ethically, it's not right that you're creating, or that you're capturing all of these creatures and then dissecting them so you can work out how you know why is this magical creature you know, so magical. It's not very nice to just breed them that so you can just dissect them." Stuff like that. the next adventure module, which is actually episode 3 in the Great Quest, is going to deal with an artifact, or artifacts, plural, left behind by one of the wizards who does a lot of this research that is, not very nice in nature. The wizard in question was experimenting. So let's put a pit drop here in this one, and let's just have an actual floor in the other one. So yeah, the wizard was he was experimenting with how the brain stores information, because what he wanted to be able to do is create an elixir or a potion that effectively instills in the drinker knowledge. So if you wanted to learn gardening, you could go down to this wizard's bottle shop, go to his bottle shop, and buy. Oops, what's happened here? Oh, there we go. Buy his elixir of gardening, drink it, and whoosh, suddenly you know how to garden. So think of it like, you know how, if you've ever watched the movie The Matrix, and Neo sort of says, or Trinity says, I need to learn how to ride a motorbike. And then they load the motorbike riding program, and suddenly she's a professional motorcyclist. So think of it like that, except with a magical elixir. You drink the elixir and suddenly, bing, you know how the information is loaded into your mind on how to do whatever it is that you got the elixir to do. So years ago, a long time ago, before the cataclysm that wiped them all out, this wizard was learning how people's brains store information, and he did it in not very nice ways. But effectively, he had lots of let's call them test subjects, people, who he would teach them things like subjects, and then he'd chop open their heads and examine their brains to find out how the brain stored that information, and if he could distill it into a potion that a person could then drink, to figure, and then just have that information stored or placed in their mind. So yeah, in order to learn how this works, he had to, on one hand, he was teaching a lot of people how to do different things, which these people thought, yeah, this is really cool, I'm learning a new skill. But then out comes the bone saw, and he's chopping off their head, and he's going, there seems to have been changes in your brain, so this is where the information's been stored. I now need to distill how this information's been kept. So, which obviously isn't a very nice thing for the person in question, whose proverbial grey matter is on the chopping block. So yeah, not the most wonderful of people. So that's how he did it. And now, years and years later, he's died off, but his machine's been left behind. And this machine, it creates because he was commissioned by another settlement, another wizard community, and they asked him to make for them a potion so they could educate their animal familiars. So the animal familiars are far more useful to them, because obviously, if you're a wizard and you've got an animal familiar, but you have a connection to that animal familiar, so you get a good idea of what that animal familiar is thinking, and it gets a good idea of what you want. But it's a lot better if that animal familiar, if you can just talk directly to that animal familiar. So that's what they wanted. They wanted an elixir that basically grants their familiars knowledge, which he made for them, but how he made it was kind of horrible. A lot of people died to make that elixir. But, again, that's why these wizards created this world, is to get away from all the ethics and, be free to do whatever their twisted little minds come up with. Okay, so this is almost sort of come down here, fill in these rooms. Put in pit traps here and there. It's one of the things I like about this this map tile set is the pit traps. I do like a good pit trap. Like, they're easy to avoid. They're easy. Like, they're not going to kill people. Well, they will. You fall down it. You're not gonna have a good day. But I mean, they are the kind of traps that even a fighter with no rank in detecting traps or anything like that can avoid. Can detect it and avoid it. So it's not. It's a hazard, but it's not. The end of it, the adventure. There are ways across. If you've got a rope and a long pole, you can avoid a pit trap. Oop, did I just accidentally double click? Yep, I did. Here comes Photoshop. Let's just avoid that. No, I'm not going to use that one. What's going on here? Let's just get rid of Photoshop. Go away. Okay, so back over here. So I might just... There we go. Almost done on this map. So I'll need to do a couple of cards, just like this one, where there's only a limited number of entrances. So that way you can do the outer edges of your dungeon with these cards, like that, and I think that is the last square. So let's go to View, Fit in Window. There we go. So that is that map card completed. So you can attach other map cards to the sides here, 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 and here. And, you know, you've got a blocked wall here. So it doesn't look weird if you put this on the northern side of your dungeon. Okay, let's save it out. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. Where's my projects drive? I save everything in Dropbox. Into my projects folder in Dropbox. Into my map tiles. Endless dungeon crawl. Oop, come on. I double clicked. And this is the underground structure. The underground structure with catacombs. Where is it? Underground catacombs. Here we go. But I am going to call this... I will call this north side. North edge. Northern edge. There we go. So, save. And then we'll go to make a copy of it, which will be a flattened image. Where is it? No. So we go, export as, that I've used the wrong button. Okay, so we go down to WebP and save it as WebP. There we go. Export. Done. So I'll upload that later this afternoon. But let's make another one. Because I try and make 2 of these on every Monday. So let us unlock all this stuff, and so we go and select them all and then delete. Same thing with the floor. Select it all and delete. There we go. So we've got a blank map. We'll start again. I'll do the same thing, but actually I might block off this side this time, and I might do an interesting bit in the middle. So it's these walls that I'm using. Okay, we're in our walls, not our floor. So we're in the right folder. So I'm going to have this one blocked off, this one open. So let's go and just close off this entire wall. Need to pronounce my English better. Here we go. But yeah, where was I with my story? Episode 1 was kidnapped. Episode 2 is the Trader's Way, which is a big important road that runs around the surface of the cube. It's called the Trader's Way because merchants and traders use it to move from the big settlements, the big gnome settlements that exist in the world of the cube. So they use it to get around. It's a very big built-up road. So the main road itself of the Trader's Way is 20 feet across. So it's wide enough that two carts can pass each other and have plenty of room. So they can think of it like a two-lane road, with, a lane going one direction, a lane coming back on either side, and 10 feet of space for the carts. So that's, traverses the entire world of the cube. There are then junction roads which run off of the main road, and they run off at right angle towards the sides of the maze, usually to the foot of the mountain walls, where communities have been built. And it was one of those ruined communities that our intrepid adventurers were teleported to when the adventure started in Kidnapped. Okay, so I need to put some cornerstones there and there. But we'll just quickly go and do the wall over this side. So yeah, our heroes are teleported into the world of the cube, quite against their will. They didn't want to end up in the world of the cube. Nobody really does. But somehow, the magic of the cube just sort of says, nah, you don't get a choice. You're going to end up in the world of the cube for my entertainment. So yeah, people, our adventurers discover the Trader's Way. They meet some people on the Trader's Way who can help them out, and become characters that hopefully will become recurring characters that people will be able to, come and visit and get help. But only in one specific area. This is a dwarven settlement called the Bolt Hole, and a gnome city called the Principality of East. Now, an interesting thing is that there are 4 big gnome cities, and they're probably the largest settlements in the world of the cube. But these gnome cities are each called North, South, East, and West. And the interesting thing is that there is no magnetic North, South, East, and West on the cube. There is a magnetic North, but strangely, magnetic North in the world of the cube is actually the center of the cube. So if you try to use a compass to navigate to the north, Photoshop, go away. You will end up. There we go. You will end up marching in a circle. Well, you'll end up marching towards the center of the cube. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing. There are some interesting things that characters will want to find at the center of the cube, but generally, you won't want to go to the center of the cube. So, okay, what are we going to do here? Shall we put in another inner wall that forces people to come around this side to get into an area in the center? Me kinda likey that idea, because it forces people to explore, and I'm all good on forcing people to explore. There we go. So they have to come around here. Probably put in, pit traps again. But we'll have an entrance, 2x2 entrance. So it's a big entrance. Maybe we'll have an alien construction in the middle here. it step down and have something interesting in the center. So yeah, there's in the world of the cube, there are the 4 big gnome cities, north, south, east, and west. The eastern city had a calamity a number of years ago, where the cities, so the gnome cities are built into the mountain walls of the cube, sort of like dwarven cities, like underground dwarven cities, but they're built with balconies and passageways and whatnot on the walls of the mountain, sort of, so they can look down, overlook the city itself. Now, where the Principality of East is, it's built on a corner of the, a mountain wall corner, so, a corner bit. So it's the corner sort of sticks out as into the outer city, which is sort of built around the gnome city. And the outer city is basically made up of non-gnomes who have come to the city for safety, protection, but also to trade. The gnome cities are great trading hubs because the gnomes are constantly looking for materials to build artifacts and devices and whatnot. They're also constantly they don't really do any farming themselves, so they're great vacuums of food. So if you're a producer of food, you can pretty much be guaranteed to be able to sell your crops to the gnome cities. So the outer cities sort of become commerce to feed the gnome city, and the gnome city just basically sucks up all the commerce to feed itself, and that's sort of the way commerce sort of works in the world of the cube. Everybody's toiling away basically to feed the gnomes, and the gnomes are toiling away to create artifacts and devices and whatnot to sell. Well, not necessarily sell. They don't really like selling their devices to non-gnomes, but they have an economy that pretty much just drives this engine of creation and consumption. So we've got a wall coming all the way around there. So cap that. So yeah, everybody's working to keep the gnomes happy. Because unfortunately, the gnomes kind of are very xenophobic. The imperial gnomes of the cube, they're quite xenophobic to other peoples. Like they tolerate their presence, but the way that they think the world, and this is also their religion as well. They think that the world of the cube was created by their god, who is a god by the name of Mechanos, and he is the god of machines and puzzles. So they think Mechanos created the world of the cube for them. Oops. Don't need that. Get rid of Photoshop. So they think the world of the cube was created for them by Mechanos, and because they are pardon me. Oof, I think I should drink a little bit of a drink. There we go. So, because the world was created by Mechanos, they think that Mechanos created this world specifically for them, because they're gnomes. They're, you know, the smaller races of the multiverse, and they think that, you know, because they're a small people, they get the larger peoples beat them up. So Mechanos created the world of the cube so they could have a safe place from the larger peoples of the multiverse. Whether this is true or not doesn't really matter. That's what they think the world of the cube is. It's their puzzle paradise. So they see all the other peoples who live in the world of the cube, regardless of whether you were born there or not. They see you as a trespasser. You know, the cube was not created for you. It was created for the gnomes. So you can stay here, but you know, you're not really part of Mechanos's plan. You know, we the gnomes, we're part of Mechanos's plan. He made this world for us. You just happen to live in it, and you have to make way whenever we the gnomes, the chosen people of Mechanos, want to do something. So that's how the gnomes are sort of that's what they sort of think of the world and everyone in it. Pardon me. Okay, so I've got this. So you come in here or here. You have to come around here, and then you get into this area where there's going to be a different sort of building. Now, how are we going to do that? So let's put in a floor. Okay, so let's go. So I'm going to use one of these 2x2 pieces to quickly fill that. But I'm in the wrong folder. Let's plop that into the floor. There we go. That looks a lot better. So let's actually zoom in. So go from fit to window to 100%. There we go. Scroll over here and down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly fill out the floor. But what an interesting thing I'll do is I'll put pit traps. So to get in here, you've got to get past these pit traps. So there's there's one that's got wooden palings there. Over this side, this one will be completely open. So there's no help that way. So yeah, that's the gnome cities, but the Principality of East is actually different. Now, it was the Kingdom of East, and it was ruled by one of the gnome royal gnome families, but there was a great calamity because it is built on the corner of one of the mountain walls, and they excavated it so much. There were so many balconies and you know, forums and whatnot on the mountain wall itself that it actually cracked the mountain wall, and the mountain wall looked like the corner collapsed into the city below. Now this killed a lot of the gnomes who were in the upper city, in the city section above ground, in the mountain wall, because, you know, a lot of the mountain wall collapsed and fell into the floor of the maze below. and made quite a mess. So the ruling royal family pretty much was killed. The majority of them was killed because they had a lot of ornate balconies. So the majority of them died when all this rock collapsed into the city below, and a lot of the people who lived in the outer city also died because all this tons and tons of rock collapsed into the city. But here's the interesting thing: all these different peoples helped, dig out other gnomes who were trapped in the rubble, and the gnomes of the Kingdom of East came to see that these people were more, they were the outsider. They are the non-chosen of Mechanos, but they were willing to help save the gnomes who were trapped under the rubble. So the young prince, who was one of the remaining members of his family bloodline, who is quite cosmopolitan in his approach to the other peoples of the cube. He really fostered the idea that the city should change its xenophobic attitudes to these peoples and become more cosmopolitan. So, and because the royal family effectively was killed from this great calamity, it stopped being a kingdom because they no longer had a king, but they had a prince. So it became the Principality of East. And it also, the kingdom of the Principality is not really on good terms with the other gnome kingdoms, because the gnome kingdom of North is pretty much considered to be the boss. Usually what they say goes. But this prince basically turned around and said, "Look, nah, we're going to be a principality. We're going to look after ourselves. We don't need you to install a new king that you choose. We're going to look after ourselves." The Kingdom of North didn't really want to press the matter, because effectively, if they press the matter, they pretty much, their only choice is to militarily force the issue, and they don't want to do that to their fellow gnomes. And the prince is, he is a rightful heir to the crown of East, but he is a prince, and the other kingdoms, the other gnome kingdoms, aren't willing to really, what would be the good word? Aren't really willing to agree on his new position. Like they aren't willing to sort of say, we agree, you are now King of East. Because he has such cosmopolitan ideas, it's totally alien to the other gnomes. It's a totally alien concept to the other gnomes of the other kingdoms, that he is fostering a really multicultural, open and accepting society. They're sort of like, they're the outsiders. They're not gnomes. They're not the chosen of Mechanos. Why are you being so open arms? Where, to their point of view, they're like, these peoples, they may not be gnomes, but they, when the chips were down, they really helped us out. They dug my parents out from underneath that ton of stone. Stuff like that. So the Principality of East is really sort of different to the other gnome kingdoms because it is so open and accepting. Whoops, go away, Photoshop. I keep accidentally double clicking. Yeah, so it is so open and accepting of other peoples who are non-gnomes. So the cities become very cosmopolitan, but in the downside is that it really sort of plays a stark contrast to the xenophobia of the Imperial Gnomes. They're sort of stuck between. They're sort of like, we don't really like the other peoples. They're not the chosen of Mechanos, but at the same time, those gnomes from the Eastern Empire. Don't know about them. They're willing to have humans and dwarves and halflings in their city, but that's just not right. But we're not willing to force the issue with them because they are our fellow gnomes. They're not seeing the light. They're not seeing it our way. So yeah, that's the difference with the Principality of East. Is it's quite an open society. You can go there. Like it's open to a point. The gnomes didn't just stop being xenophobic overnight. There are still a lot of gnomes who, are quite xenophobic to other peoples. But there are a lot more. They seem to be the minority compared to the younger majority who are very willing and accepting of new peoples. But their ideas of this multiculturalism is really alien to the other gnomes from the other gnome cities, the gnome kingdoms, who those gnome kingdoms are highly xenophobic. They don't think that any of these peoples should be here in the world that Mechanos created for the gnomes. Because as a story plot device, the racism, the xenophobia, is one of the main foils that adventurers have to deal with when in the world of the cube. That they have to deal with, the fact that a lot of these towns and a lot of these big cities where they could, do a lot of work, or they're benefactors from these big gnome cities, honestly don't really like them. They see them as a throwaway people. They only think that their fellow gnomes are the important ones. As disgusting as that sounds to people who come from multicultural societies, I'm using something so disgusting as something to fight against in this environment. It's not that I support these sort of ideas. That's why all my villains have all these ideas. Okay, so I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll put something interesting here, like a different, like maybe a big alien thing. So let's make a folder. So we call it internal structure. The structure. There we go. Okay, so let's go and find something to put in there. So what would be an interesting thing? Might actually, where's the Egyptian map tiles? This might be a good spot to put in something like that. Egyptian, here we go. So, sandstone floor. Okay, so let's do some steps. Okay, this is what I'm thinking of. Let's put these sandstone steps. Like there's a temple within this building in here. So let's do that. This will be a shrine within a shrine. So here we go. So it'll be like a little couple of steps up to whatever this is. Like so. And then we have to do the other sides. Oop, there we go. Like that. Now once I put this in, I'll actually zoom back in to do the inside. And where's the top? Is it down here? No. Ah, here it is. Okay, so this is the floor of our structure that we're putting in. So let's zoom back in. Back to 100%. Okay, so we've got our steps. A set of steps that come up. So then we'll put in some walls. Actually, I'll do the floor first. Let's go back. Come down here. Yep. So we'll use these tiles because they have this central sort of carved area. This piece. There we go. And then I need it for the floor. I mean, down here. Just like that. Okay, so then we need to go here and here. Looks like a little rabbit. So, yeah, so from where I am in the current construction of the adventure module. So I've made the first one, second one, hoping to finish that up tomorrow. So what could we do? I like these. So how about we just put one there, the other one here, and then we just have some standard blocks like that, and that. Okay, so that's our platform. So I'm going to put a wall around it. And so I'll do the same thing here. I'll put in a folder called structure. There we go. And so pop up. So we need walls. But I've got these sandstone columns. I could possibly... Actually, we could do something like this. Because we want an entrance. Like that. So this will make it look like... You know, these columns are sort of... They'll make it look more temple-y. Like that. Now what we could do is we could put the entrance. So you come around here, and this brings you around the back of it. Make people come around to front. Or should we have this as the entrance? So you come in here, I'm thinking make them come around here again. So let's pop back up to our walls. Okay, so let's... Should we do these walls? Or just flat like that? I'm leaning towards some sort of broken walls. Or actually, we've got walls which have... Hang on, where are they? Here. They have hieroglyphics on them. Let's do that. So, here we go. So this is where the hieroglyphic walls start. Oh, didn't mean to do that. So pop them in like this. Okay. So yeah, the world of the cube is populated with the Imperial Gnomes, and unfortunately the Imperial Gnomes are, for want of a better word, jerks. But you've got to have, you've got to have good villains to be a foil for your players, and I think the Imperial Gnomes will be a very interesting foil. Okay, so cornerstones. Okay, let's use these curved ones. Since I used curved pieces here, curved there will be interesting. Okay, so I need this one. Oops, why do I keep double clicking? Like that, and this one here will go in there. And where is it? This one here. Go there, like that. Now, how am I going to do the entrance? Now, did I make doors? Standard floors. Door overlays. Did I do doubles? Did I do double doors? Yes, I did. Awesome. Okay, so let's use wooden door. Yeah, this can do. Okay, so we're going to flip it around. So clockwise. So this double door is going to go here. But I need to put it up in my features. There we go. Oh, why is it hidden? There we go. So let's pop in back to this structure. Pop in some cornerstones. And we'll need to do square ones. So we'll need to use these ones. So that goes there. And there. Here we go. And this one. Like that. Now, I might put little dead-end alcoves here. So maybe they're like guards. Yep. Oops, go away. So we have like little guard alcoves. Although if we have guard alcoves, I think this line should shunt back one. So yeah, we'll redo that. So we get guard alcoves like that. And then just maybe a big room. Let's come back. 5-foot curved wall. Should we do that? No, we'll go with square. Square walls. But let's put in square walls that have hieroglyphs. Oops. Like that. So where is the other side? There we go. Come back up here. That one. And this one. Like so. And then we have to put pieces here and here. Okay, so where are the hieroglyphic sections? Here we are. And this one has a nice little broken bit. And then we cap off these and put pieces there, so like so. And up the top. Like that, in there. Now we're going to cap these pieces. And we'll be almost pretty much done, I think. Yep, like that. And I think that's pretty much it. So let's zoom out. yeah, so that looks like an interesting little piece, you know, that players will come in, they'll come around here, get across here, go, ooh, there's a different building, and then come around and go, ooh, there's a doorway, push through, and maybe there's a shrine just inside there. But there is a thing, I need to redo the floor, so what I'm going to do is lock down the walls, lock down the features. I'm then going to come back to this folder. Okay, so this is where I'm going to switch to the pick mode on the move brush, move tool. So I'm going to pick up that, delete it, pick up that one, delete it. This one I'll delete, and that one I'll delete. I'll then grab this, move that there, move these over. So that's sort of the main ceremonial chamber, and just put some normal floor tiles. Where are we? Sandstone floor. So yep, just use some of these. Oops, now I will switch back to the move, because I don't want to be shuffling stuff around that doesn't need to get moved. And that's pretty much it. That is, yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to create. So thank you for sticking with me. This is yeah, another map card. I'll save this out. If you're with me on Patreon, you'll be able to pick this up later this afternoon in the Studio Dungeon Assets browser. You should be able to find it there. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And I'll catch you next Monday. Thanks.